In last class, I have discussed a simple analysis of the syllabus so that we could get an idea that how to proceed in the modern Indian history part, right? Indian national movement part. So like I discussed with you in the last class that since we are starting our first chapter, this is our lecture number 2, and here we are entering into the theme, right? Last class we discussed syllabus only. So now we are going to enter the theme. We are going to discuss the very first chapter, and the chapter is India in 18th century. That is the very first chapter. Okay, and in this chapter, one part was advent of different European groups in the India. But this process started very early, from 15th century onwards. We have to read about India in 18th century, but the story goes back to 15th century. So from 15th century, different Europeans group, okay, they started entering into India. Now we were discussing that why they were coming to India. So first they came as traders, clear? So their prospect was what? Their prospect was, okay, to get economic benefits or gains from India. That was their main prospect. So obviously India was presenting that kind of opportunity at that time, that if these foreign groups will come to India, they will get enormous benefits, right? So in this series, we need to understand that economic prospect that India was presenting before different European groups. So for this, we need to understand ancient India as well as medieval India. So here I will give again a very short and brief introduction. And when I will start AMC classes, again I will discuss. Those who have already studied AMC, they know that I have already discussed this part, economic prosperity, in very detail in my classes, right? So for example, I am giving you some hints here. For example, ancient India. You can draw this structure so that you could further broaden this idea. Ancient India, Indus Valley Civilization period, IVC period. There was international trade. There was international trade. And the most important thing about IVC is that we have got literary references of this international trade. This literary reference is not from Indus Valley Civilization, but it's from Mesopotamia. And what is the literary reference? Dilmun, Magan and Meluha. And here Meluha has been identified with Indus Valley civilization. Clear? So this is a clear literary reference that, okay, Meluha is identified with Indus Valley civilization. So there was international trade. There was trade through sea routes, and there were seaports also, dockyard also. You all know this. Lothal. From here, what has been discovered? Lothal is in Gujarat. Dockyard has been discovered. Okay. So this gives us some idea that yes, people were doing trade and commerce, and that too by using sea routes. And Indus Valley civilization people, IVC people, were they familiar with the use of cotton? The answer is yes. And in modern India, when we talk about the British, it's all about cotton textiles. Clear? So Indians were much ahead than European counterparts when we talk about the trade and commerce, especially the cotton textiles also. And this is happening from the IVC period. This IVC period is also known as what? First urbanization. The phase of first urbanization. Those who have not studied AMC, I will start AMC very soon after finishing this batch, right? Those who have already discussed, so they are familiar. First urbanization phase. Now what is the second urbanization? Akash, second urbanization phase? Exactly. And that is which time period? So this is 600-300 BC time period. That is also known as state formation era or Mahajanpad era. And this is what? Phase of second urbanization in Indian history. So first urbanization and second urbanization will indicate what? Development of urban centers, diversity in craft, trade and commerce. Clear? So it's very clear that ancient India, okay, India was presenting a rich prospect with respect to trade and commerce. And we already have discussed here about 16 Mahajanpads in our classes. A Buddhist text, Anguttara Nikaya, gives description about this. And majority of these Mahajanapadas were located in which part of India? Rich Gangetic River Valley region. Got it? So the soil was also fertile. The agriculture production and productivity was also good. Okay, there were bigger states that were coming into existence in this period. And in the same sequence, we see the states that are known as states in the Mauryan period. Then the important development we see here is in later Mauryan period. And again in later Mauryan period, what we see? This is Indus Valley civilization, economic prosperity, Vedic culture. This prosperity will decline here. This is Indus Valley civilization, Vedic culture, prosperity decline because this Vedic culture was rural in nature. Mahajanpada era, what will happen? The economic prosperity will further increase. Mauryan period, okay, later Mauryan period, this economic prosperity will further increase. And why it will increase? Due to a result of cultural interaction. And there are two kind of cultural interactions. Cultural interactions, okay, with outsiders, and cultural interaction between north and south. I have discussed it in MC. Okay, so there are two kind of cultural interactions in later Mauryan period. One is cultural interactions with ISPK, that is with outsiders. Okay, they came, adopted Indian cultures and all this we have discussed in our ancient classes. And the second is what? Cultural interaction between north and south. And here what will happen? Deccan will become that cultural bridge. Okay, via Deccan trade and commerce will be promoted. And there were important trade routes also, Uttarapath and Dakshinapath, right? And these trade routes developed in different time intervals. So when we talk about the previous Uttarapath and Dakshinapath in its initial time, so at that time Mathura was the junction. But I told you that the roads will develop, the network will develop further. So then Sravasti will become the center. R.S. Sharma book writes that Sravasti was the center. Okay, so Mathura was also the junction, Sravasti was also the junction. Both these, okay, facts are correct. Now, what we see here is that after later Mauryan period, during Gupta period is also phase of economic prosperity. You all know this. But Gupta period is divided into two phases. In previous phase, what we see? Economic prosperity. And in the second phase, what we see? The prosperity declines. Right? So this all is a part of MC. And I think that when you are reading MC, you should write an answer in 150 words about trade and commerce in ancient India. Were there important seaports in ancient India? Yes. The people were using trade routes? Yes. There was trade and commerce using Silk route, that is also an important point, and Kushanas were dominating the Silk route. Okay, so the people were doing trade and commerce, but okay, here what is happening that I have already discussed with you that okay, in ancient India people were doing trade and commerce using this route. This red colored route is land route. Okay, and look here, this land route connecting China from Central Asian region, connecting India to the Europe. Okay, that is a land route. And this is what? This blue colored line is what? This is sea route. It means sea route trade to tha na ancient India mein. Yes, tha trade route. But the problem is what? Problem is that we were not familiar with this route, Cape of Good Hope. Okay, and when the trade will be conducted via this land route, so here Constantinople, that is Turkey, was like the cross junction or junction of this international land route trade, right? Turkey, that's Constantinople. Kustuntunia, there is an important event that I will discuss with you very soon, that is fall of Constantinople in 1453. तो ये ध्यान रखना है कि ट्रेड रूट जो है यहाँ पे लैंड रूट में, इसमें कॉन्स्टेंटिनोपल वाज लाइक अ ट्रेड जंक्शन, एंड दैट वाज आल्सो द रीजन फॉर द इकोनॉमिक प्रॉस्पेरिटी ऑफ Constantinople. Okay, and in medieval ages what we see is that the same Constantinople was the one of the most important center in Byzantine Empire, right? That was later captured by the Turks. We will discuss this episode. So this was the sea route. What Vasco da Gama did? Look here. Vasco da Gama discovered this route. द रूट वाया केप ऑफ गुड होप, ठीक है ना। तो उसने ये वाला रूट डिस्कवर किया। अदरवाइज अगर पहले हमें ट्रेड करना था यूजिंग सी रूट, सो वी विल यूज व्हाट, either this route sea and land or this route sea and land, ठीक है ना। And then we started using this route, and there are some important factors for this I will discuss. So this is quite clear that in ancient India there was economic prosperity. What about the Cholas, Cheras and Pandyas? What about the Vijayanagar state? Okay, that was also a very prosperous state in South India, right? Calicut, Kerala, on the western coast, what we see, that Vasco da Gama reached first. So India was presenting a very good prospect. Ancient India में आप पढ़ोगे items of import, export and all this. Got it? In medieval India also this the same will happen. Association of Muslims with India will start. There are some challenges also and there are some prospect also. Okay? So this cultural interaction will bring what? Many technological changes and developments also. Economic prosperity will also increase. It means India was a golden bird from ancient times, from medieval times, and in modern times also. Bengal, okay, was composing of more than 1/3 export of the total export of Asia. That shows that India was a golden bird. Land was fertile, soil was fertile, and this is also one of the reasons that Indian philosophical traditions also always preached what? Culture of tolerance and sacrifice. बताओ कौन सेक्रीफाइस कर सकता है, किसके अंदर टॉलरेंस ज़्यादा होगा? जिसके पास रिसोर्सेज होंगे। मेरी बात समझ गए? अगर आपके पास खाने के लिए रोटी नहीं होगी तो लड़ाई तो करोगे ना, ठीक है। फूड क्राइसिस होगा तो लड़ाई तो करोगे। दिस इज द रीजन दैट फ्रॉम सेंट्रल एशिया मेनी ट्राइब्स इन्वेडेड इंडिया। वो इंडिया की तरफ भाग के आते थे, ठीक है। एंड इंडिया में क्या है, लोग बाबा बन जाते थे। कल्चर ऑफ सेक्रीफाइस, ठीक है, नॉन पोजिशन, अपरिग्रह, ये सारा। मेरी बात समझ गया ना? तो एसेटिज्म का जो कल्चर है वो वहीं ज्यादा पॉपुलर हो सकता है जहां पे इकोनॉमिक रिसोर्सेज विल बी in abundance, and this is one of the reason that India was promoting culture of asceticism, culture of sacrifice, culture of tolerance, and at the same time it was promoting a kind of the great economic prospect before the people. So that is a great achievement for India. Now we are entering into the topic. Okay, अब आप जब एंशियंट और मिडिवल पढ़ो तो थोड़ा सा इस पॉइंट पे ध्यान रखोगे, राइट। यू विल ट्राई टू एक्सप्लोर दिस टॉपिक, दिस विल हेल्प यू in your understanding. Now I am entering into the conditions. Okay, which kind of conditions were there in Europe that different European groups came to India? So here we have to learn a few concepts. Okay, and what are these concepts I am going to discuss with. So the various conditions we are going to discuss. So in these conditions, in world history class yesterday I discussed a time frame of ancient world, medieval world and modern world. Do you remember? Okay, so just give answer. Ancient world, those who were present in world history class, ancient world, medieval world, medieval world. Basically world की जगह यहाँ यूरोप लिखे तो ज़्यादा अच्छा होगा. Ancient Europe, medieval Europe and modern Europe. What was the time frame that I discussed in world history classes? क्या था time frame? Ancient world का क्या था? क्या अनम्यूट नहीं कर पा रहे हो क्या अपने आप? Exactly. Good. Okay. 3 BC to 500 AD. और आप लोग वीडियोस थोड़े ऑन रखा करिए क्योंकि मैं अभी ऑफलाइन टीचिंग छोड़ा हूँ तो थोड़ा और ज़्यादा इंटरेक्टिव फील होगा मुझे, ठीक है। तो वीडियोस ऑन रखा करिए सो दैट आई कुड फील द टाइम इन द क्लास. ओके, एंड दिस विल मोटिवेट मी अ लॉट एंड आई विल डू अ लॉट फॉर द स्टूडेंट इन दिस वे. ठीक है, आने वाले टाइम में बहुत सारी चीज़ें आप देखेंगे, ठीक है। तो थोड़ा सा इंकरेज रहूँगा मैं, ठीक है, नहीं तो फिर भाग जाऊँगा मैं ऑफलाइन क्लासेस की तरफ, मन नहीं लगेगा तो. चलो 3600 BC टू 500 AD. और दूसरा क्या टाइम पीरियड था मेडिवल का, दैट इज 500 AD टू 1500 AD. देखो कहीं कहीं ये 1400 AD भी है तो इससे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. दिस इज व्हाट, दिस इज 14th 15th century AD. यही है ना, 14th 15th century AD. Got it? 14th 15th century AD. Now this is what medieval age. So here what we see, elements of medievalism. Here what we see, elements of medievalism. And what are these elements of medievalism? कैन यू सजेस्ट सम पॉइंट्स? बताइए क्या हो सकता है पॉइंट एलिमेंट्स ऑफ मिडिवलिज्म? बताया था मैंने, दिस फेज वाज द गोल्डन एज ना, ये तो गोल्डन एज है, ठीक है। तो यहाँ पे क्या होगा मेडिवलिज्म का कॉन्सेप्ट? वन थिंग टेल मी दैट फ्यूडलिज्म विल बिकम मोर प्रोमिनेंट और नॉट? यस, फ्यूडलिज्म विल बिकम मोर प्रोमिनेंट। सबसे बड़ी चीज यहाँ पे क्या है कि फ्यूडलिज्म विल बिकम मोर प्रोमिनेंट। so this feudalism will become more prominent. Clear? Feudalism in ancient India also we see the feudalism, Gupta period, feudal elements. So feudalism में क्या है? There is an important point that is called serfdom. This is called serfdom. Basically feudalism is based on this land based system and order. ये इसी पे based है, land based system and order, right? It's land based system or order, feudalism, based on the land and land rights. And here we see there are two classes. One class is called master, one class is called master, and the second class is called serf. This serf also means peasants. One class is master and the second class is serf or peasant. And it's a yes, please. Actually this word became popular during Russian Revolution, ठीक है ना, सर्फ वहां पे होता है, बट ये वर्ड जनरली यूज किया जाता है, राइट, पीजेंट्स के लिए। गॉट इट आकाश? so this is what serf. Serf means peasant. This is master. This is a system that is based on land and land rights, land based system. And here which economic activity will be the most prominent economic activity? Now we can simply guess agriculture and allied activities, right? They will be the most prominent activities. ध्यान से समझना है, नोट्स भी बनाना है, ठीक है। और जो मैं कॉन्सेप्ट हिस्ट्री में बताता हूँ कई और जगह आप यूज करोगे, ठीक है ना। So this is what agriculture and allied activities. Now what is happening here? The entire profit is concentrated in the hand of this class, that is master class, right? And the peasants or the serfs were given the minimum share. उनको बहुत कम मिलता था. The entire effort for the production was made by these serfs or the peasants. Production के लिए सबसे ज्यादा कोशिश कौन कर रहा है? Serfs, peasants. Okay, and this class is the class who is owing the land. So they are the owners of the land also. And these people are not the owners of the land. They are working on the land. Entire profit is concentrated in the hands of these masters that are also called feudal lords. Is it clear? Peasants getting minimum share. Now the life of the peasants became worse in this medieval age. It was very difficult for these peasants even to manage for 2 meals a day. दो समय का भोजन जुटाना भी इनके लिए मुश्किल हो जाएगा. Now suppose you are working, and by working, by your profession, you are not earning sufficient money even to feed yourself and your children. So what will happen? Will you put your all efforts in that work, in that profession? No. So when the peasants and serfs will be exploited, what will be the long-term effects of this system? The agriculture production and productivity will decline because the peasants are not encouraged to put their 100% efforts in agriculture. So in long term means what? This is a period of almost 1000 years. So in long term, what will happen? This will have an adverse effect on agriculture. The agriculture production and productivity will decline. This will happen. So long term effect, you can write here. What is the long term effect? So long term effect is that agriculture production and productivity will decline. Agriculture production decline, productivity will decline. And when this will happen, ultimately the margin or profits of feudal lords will also come down. Profit सारा किसके पास है? Feudal lord के पास है. So when this will happen, the margin or the profits of feudal lords will also decline. वो भी decline होगा. So this is one reason. What I want to say here is that 14th 15th century, what was happening? 14th 15th century also marks the end of medievalism in Europe. 14th 15th century also marks the end of medievalism in Europe. And what is happening here in 14th 15th century? The feudal system is crumbling. Why it is crumbling, do you understand? Okay? So here what is happening? Feudal system is crumbling, and I have already discussed one reason for this. Feudal system was crumbling. Here what was happening? Feudal system was crumbling. एक पॉइंट तो समझ गया ना कि फ्यूडल सिस्टम क्रम्बल हो रहा है, फ्यूडल लॉर्ड्स के प्रॉफिट्स और मार्जिन्स क्या हो रहा है? रिड्यूस हो रहा है. दिस इज वन पार्ट. फ्यूडल सिस्टम वाज क्रम्बलिंग. अब दूसरे एग्जांपल पे आते हैं. मिड ऑफ 14th century what happened? Have you heard the name of plague? Bubonic plague in Europe. The outbreak of this disease. And when this outbreak of disease will take place, what will happen? Thousands of people will die. Peasants will die. जब किसान की डेथ हो जाएगी तो खेती करेगा कौन? मेरी बात समझ गए? So by this death also what will happen? Agriculture production and productivity will be affected. The profit and margin of the feudal lords will come down, and this is also what? Crumbling of the feudal system or order, and it marks the end of medievalism here. So this will also happen. You can write one more factor for this. The second factor is, okay, outbreak of disease that is mid of 14th century. देखो एग्जैक्ट डेट आपको याद रखने की जरूरत नहीं है. मुझे पता है ये 1348 है, बट मैं आपको नहीं बता रहा हूँ. ऐसा नहीं कि मुझे याद नहीं. ठीक है, तो आपको भी वैसा नहीं करना है. मैंने कहा ना, इंफॉर्मेशन पैंडेमिक से बच के रहना है. उतना ही लेना है जितना आप यूज कर सको. ठीक है ना. सो दैट इज मिड ऑफ 14th century. कितना आसानी से याद हो गया? 14th 15th century, mid of 14th 15th century. A spread of outbreak of disease like bubonic plague. Thousands of peasants died, and agriculture production and productivity were affected. Agriculture production and productivity were affected. इससे भी प्रॉफिट कम हो गया, मार्जिन कम हो गया. इज इट क्लियर? नाउ one part you have understood. Agriculture production and productivity is affected here. Now the second important feature of this medieval ages is what? Medievalism का दूसरा सबसे important feature क्या है? In ancient times also there was autocratic rule, monarchical system, but that was a little bit progressive. जैसे कि इंडिया में महाजनपदा एरा में रिपब्लिक्स के केस में वैसा ही कुछ था. Got it? So here what is happening? The monarchical system, autocratic system now will not be that much progressive. That is decline. Decline means now monarchs will not behave in a responsible manner. That is the most important thing. It means now the monarchical, in this monarchical system, what we see, the influence of religion will increase. Influence of Catholic Church will increase. And finally, the priestly class will emerge as one of the most powerful class. So one class is what? The class of the rulers. The second class is the class of priestly class or clergies, right? Both became prominent and both started supporting each other. Both started supporting and validating each other. दोनों ने ग्रुप बना लिया. अच्छा बताओ, in order to look after the administration, you need an administrative class also. Administrative class चाहिए कि नहीं? कौन होगा वो administrative class? Sons and daughters of these few. And here in the system of administration, the offices will be hereditary. मेरी बात समझ गए? तो आम आदमी तो सिस्टम से बाहर हो गया ना. All the administrative system, in all this administrative system, all the administrative affairs were looked after by the sons and daughters of the feudal lords. And sons and daughters of the feudal lords, and the offices were hereditary also. आम आदमी सिस्टम से बाहर. तो एक कार्टेल है. इस कार्टेल में किंग है, इस कार्टेल में प्रिस्टली क्लास है, और इस कार्टेल में फ्यूडल लॉर्ड है. दिस कार्टेल वाज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट फीचर ऑफ मिडिवलिज्म. और ये कार्टेल मिलके क्या कर रहा था? दिस कार्टेल वाज एक्सप्लॉइटिंग कॉमन मासेस, कॉमन पीपल. ठीक है, जब ये कार्टेल, जब भी ये कॉम्बो पैक आएगा तो इससे किसको नुकसान होगा? कॉमन मासेस. ठीक है. That's why in Indian secularism it has been said that the state will maintain equal distance with all the religions. क्योंकि ये कार्टेल जहां बना, राज सत्ता और धर्म सत्ता, ठीक है, तो आम आदमी की सत्ता उखड़ जाएगी, ठीक है। तो कार्टेल कॉकटेल बड़ा खतरनाक है, ठीक है। इन मिडिवलिज्म दिस कॉकटेल वाज वेरी मच डेंजरस। अच्छा बताओ, जब ऐसे एक्सप्लॉइटेशन होगा आपका 500 ईयर्स 1000 ईयर्स, तो किसी दिन तो अकल खुलेगी आपकी। वन डे यू विल गेट सम, यू विल डू रिस्पॉन्स ना। तो ये ऐसे एक्सप्लॉइटेशन हो रहा था। एंड वन थिंग वाज आल्सो देयर इज दैट population, the size of population was constantly growing in this age, medievalism. The size of the population was constantly increasing, and the technological developments were also stagnant. The technological developments were also stagnant in medievalism. Population ज़्यादा हो रही है, और अगर हम डेवलपमेंट इन टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं करेंगे तो उसका इम्पैक्ट क्या होगा। जैसे कॉलोनियल रूल में था, टिल 1947 ब्रिटिश वर रूलिंग, अंग्रेज गए हिंदुस्तान से सब कुछ लूट के ले गए। आफ्टर सम टाइम 1960s वी फेस्ड व्हाट, द क्राइसिस। तो फूड क्राइसिस को सॉल्व करने के लिए क्या किया गया, ग्रीन रिवॉल्यूशन, हाई यील्डिंग वैरायटीज ऑफ सीड्स वेर इंट्रोड्यूस। हुआ ऐसा? अगर हम वैसा नहीं करते तो क्या होता बताओ, क्राइसिस बनती ना। तो उसका सॉल्यूशन हमने ढूंढा। यहां मिडिवलिज्म में क्या है प्रॉब्लम, साइज ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन इज इंक्रीजिंग, राइट, एंड व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, द टेक्नोलॉजिकल डेवलपमेंट इज स्टैग्नेंट। व्हाई टेक्नोलॉजिकल डेवलपमेंट इज स्टैग्नेंट इन दिस एज ऑफ मिडिवलिज्म? बिकॉज यूज ऑफ रीजन वाज डिस्करेज्ड। कैथोलिक चर्च कहेगा कोई ऐसी बात नहीं कहनी है जो चर्च के ऑर्थोडॉक्स बिलीफ्स से आइडेंटिफाइड नहीं हो। You cannot go against the orthodox beliefs and practices of the church. So here what else was happening? So here write this point, that orthodox beliefs and practices were promoted. Orthodox beliefs and practices were promoted, and of reason was discarded. Orthodox beliefs and practices were promoted, and use of reason was discarded. ठीक है, लोग सवाल पूछेंगे, राजा का बेटा ही राजा क्यों बन रहा है? Why king's son is the king? Now the priest will answer, God has sent him to rule. मेरी बात समझ गया ना? तो किंग को बचाने का काम कौन कर रहा है? प्रिस्ट। तो दोनों ने मिलके खिचड़ी पकाई है, ठीक है, और उससे लोगों का शोषण हो रहा है। द पीपल आर गेटिंग एक्सप्लॉइटेड। सो दिस सिस्टम यू हैव अंडरस्टूड मिडिवलिज्म व्हाट वाज हैपनिंग। Now, another important point, you all know, in last class, while discussing syllabus, I have already discussed that what is the time period of Renaissance? Renaissance का time period क्या है? In world history class, I have discussed with you. देखो, world history, modern Indian history, the things are interlinked. ठीक है, तो हमें relate करके पढ़ना पड़ेगा. That is a good thing. What is the time period of Renaissance? Any one of you? क्या है time period Renaissance का? Very good, Yashashwini. That is 14th 15th century. 14th 15th century till 17th century. This is the time period of Renaissance. In world history classes we have discussed that 14th 15th century to 17th century. And what is the next phase of the same development? That is age of enlightenment in Europe. Age of enlightenment in Europe. And the time period of this age of enlightenment is 17th and 18th century. That is the time period of this age of enlightenment. Got it? Now, here in Renaissance, what will be promoted? Use of reason will be promoted. Use of reason will be promoted. When use of reason will be promoted, what will be the impact of this? The feudal system will crumble or not? Yes or no? Feudal system will crumble. Very simple. The feudal system will start crumbling. The feudal system will start crumbling. Now, the second important thing, when use of reason will be promoted, do you think that technological development will also take place? Yes or no? हाँ भाई, साइंस तो उसी से डेवलप होगा। तो अभी इंडस्ट्रियल रिवॉल्यूशन नहीं है, बट ड्यू टू दिस टेक्नोलॉजिकल डेवलपमेंट मेनी न्यू साइंटिफिक टूल्स एंड इक्विपमेंट्स विल कम। जैसे मैग्नेटिक कॉम्पस कोई फैक्ट्री तो नहीं है, बट व्हेन मैग्नेटिक कॉम्पस विल बी डिस्कवर्ड इट विल सी वॉयेजेस विल बिकम मोर इजियर। मेरी बात समझ गया ना? तो दिस विल हैपन हियर व्हेन यूज ऑफ रीजन विल बी प्रोमोटेड। what will happen, the second important impact of this will be development in technology. This will take place, development in technology, and new instruments will come, new scientific instruments will come, new instruments will come. For example, suppose you are making cotton textiles at your home, so new machines will do what? Okay, will make this task more easier. इतना आसान हो सकता है, ठीक है? मेरी बात समझ गया ना? तो यहाँ पे फैक्ट्री की बात नहीं कर रहा है, सिलबट्टे को रिप्लेस करके मिक्सर ग्राइंडर आ गया, कुछ ऐसा समझ लो। फैक्ट्री की हम बात नहीं कर रहे हैं, ठीक है? न्यू टूल्स आर कमिंग। अच्छा बताओ, जब ये चीजें आएंगी सो विल इट प्रोमोट इकोनॉमिक प्रोस्पेक्ट, विल इट डाइवर्सिफाई इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटीज? यस। so by this what will happen, diversification of economic activities will take place, diversification of economic activities will take place. इससे क्या होगा? डाइवर्सिफिकेशन ऑफ इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटीज। क्लियर? देयर आर न्यू इकोनॉमिक प्रोस्पेक्ट्स। नाउ टेल मी, इफ एग्रीकल्चर इज नॉट प्रॉफिटेबल, सपोज यू आर फ्यूडल लॉर्ड, ओके, योर फादर फ्यूडल लॉर्ड, ग्रैंडफादर फ्यूडल लॉर्ड, ओके, ग्रैंडफादर्स फादर फ्यूडल लॉर्ड, सब फ्यूडल लॉर्ड है। बैंक अकाउंट में कितना पैसा होगा सोचो? ओके, money has been accumulated, a lot of money has been accumulated, and now the profit is declining from agriculture, so you will find new destinations for investment. हो गया यार, इन्वेस्टमेंट का कोई तरीका बताओ, शेयर मार्केट में कुछ सीख लेता हूं मैं। लोग करते ना, SIP कर देते हैं, नए नए तरीके ढूंढते हैं। नाउ द सेम फ्यूडल लॉर्ड्स, basically in medieval ages the system was based on, okay, it was a land based system. Now the same feudal lord will do what? Okay, will try to find new places where they could invest their money, and due to this use of reason, promotion of tools, promotion of you can say that technological development will diversify economic activities, and now there are new opportunities. And what is the new opportunities? Now the people will also start looking outside their country, okay, that we can go to some other countries and we can do what? We can import those goods which are popular and sell it in our market. For example, spices, silk, textiles, the people will start going from trade with the other countries. So the same was happening. The same feudal class will do what? It will invest its accumulated money. It will invest its accumulated money. It will invest its accumulated money. अपने accumulated money को क्या करेगा? He will invest its accumulated money. Okay, right, next point. Geographical discoveries, invention of new sea routes further assisted in this process. Geographical discoveries, invention of new sea routes further assisted in this process. Geographical discoveries, invention of new sea routes further assisted in this process, and in this way what was happening? Trade and commerce was promoting or was being promoted. ठीक है, ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स वाज बीइंग प्रोमोटेड। तो कुछ आइडिया आपको आया 14th सेंचुरी के बाद। एंड हियर इन रेनेसा द प्रोग्रेसिव आइडियाज विल बी प्रोमोटेड, राइट दिस, प्रोग्रेसिव आइडियाज विल बी प्रोमोटेड, use of reason will be promoted, so new scientific discoveries and inventions will take place, new scientific discoveries and inventions will take place. By these new scientific discoveries, for example, discovery of magnetic compass will make the sea voyages easier, astrolabes will make the sea voyages easier. So what will happen? This is the byproduct of Renaissance. For example, age of discovery or age of exploration, 15th to 17th century period is known as age of discovery or age of exploration, and this is the byproduct of Renaissance. Renaissance का ही byproduct है. So you can write here age of discovery or age of exploration, age of discovery and age of exploration. That is 15 to 17th century, 15 to 17th century, and it was what? It was the byproduct of Renaissance. Age of discovery, age of invention was the byproduct of Renaissance. इससे क्या होगा एज ऑफ डिस्कवरी से, एज ऑफ इन्वेंशन से? न्यू मार्केट्स विल बी डिस्कवर्ड. So this will again give birth to what? Basically, commercial revolution is a word. Okay, basically, in context of all Europe, if we'll talk, it started in 11th century, but technically it was more popular from 14th 15th century onwards. Okay, na? That's called commercial revolution. If you will count it from 11th century, so it is with respect to some countries only, but here from 15th century onwards. So you can say that commercial revolution was also promoted. Commercial revolution was also promoted. It was also promoted. Basically, it accelerated from this 14th 15th century onwards. 14th 15th century onwards, it accelerated. When feudalism will crumble, right, commercial revolution will be accelerated, and this was happening. ये सारी चीजें हो रही थी. Got it? Commercial revolution. Now, the next and the most important thing. Now you are familiar with a few things. For example, when I say age of discovery or age of exploration, so in age of discovery and age of exploration, you must know one thing, that 15th to 17th century AD. So during this period, what we see is that on Asian trade, what we see that Arabs had monopolized Asian trade at that time. Asian trade पे किसकी monopoly थी? Arabs की. And European trade was monopolized by Portuguese and Portugal and Spain. P plus S. Asian trade was monopolized by Arabs, and European trade was monopolized by Portugal and Spain. Right? And why this is happening? So we all know that here, which nation came forward? Portugal. Okay, you must have heard this name, Prince Henry the Navigator. Prince Henry, he is also known as the Navigator. Why is he known as the Navigator? Because he promoted what? Sea voyages or sea discoveries. Sea voyages were very expensive and risky affair at that time. Okay, so you need a lot of investment, and here state will invest in that. So sea voyages or sea discoveries were promoted. State was investing in that particular thing. So what we see, Prince Henry the Navigator. That is the most important thing. Prince Henry the Navigator. Portugal will spend. ठीक है. Vasco da Gama कहाँ से आया था? Portugal. And what was the century? What was the year when he reached India? 1498 AD. Columbus reached America. What was the year? 1492 AD. ये कौन सी सेंचुरी है? 15th century. Which groups came to first in India? Portuguese. Vasco da Gama discovered the route through this Cape of Good Hope. तो अब आप समझ गए कि क्यों वो आ रहे हैं दूसरी कंट्रीज में, कि उनके पास जो एक्यूमुलेटेड मनी है उसको बिजनेस के नए प्रोस्पेक्ट में इन्वेस्ट करना है. Got it? And this new opportunity, now they are trying to discover these new opportunities, and these new opportunities are available overseas. Clear? So they are coming for trade. That's the point here. Okay, now Portugal will get the benefit of early bird. Early bird का मतलब क्या होता है? ठीक है, कि कोई बिटकॉइन आया, शुरू में जो एंटर कर गया उसने खूब पैसे कमा लिए. SIP जब नया था, जिसने शुरू में एंटर किया उसने खूब पैसे कमा लिए. ठीक है, जब यूट्यूब आया, जिसने शुरू में वीडियो बनाना शुरू किया वो बहुत बड़ा इन्फ्लुएंसर बन गया. नहीं तो आजकल क्या है, वीडियोस के साथ डिजिटल प्रमोशन के लिए पीपल स्पेंड मिलियंस ऑफ रुपीज टू मेक देम ब्रांड. ठीक है, पहले ये पैसा खर्च नहीं करना था, आप अपने आप ब्रांड बन जाते थे. मेरी बात समझ गया ना? तो ये अर्ली बर्ड का बेनिफिट किसको मिलेगा? पुर्तगाल को मिलेगा. मिलेगा ना? तो पोर्टुगीज केम फर्स्ट इन इंडिया. ये भी बात आपको समझ में आई. नाउ आई विल डिस्कस वन मोर थिंग हियर, एंड दैट इवेंट इज नोन एज fall of Constantinople. That is very important event, fall of Constantinople. And what is the time period? 1453 AD. इसका भी टाइम क्या है? 1453 AD, and that is what? Mid of 15th century. ये क्या है? मिड ऑफ 15th सेंचुरी, फॉल ऑफ कॉन्स्टेंटिनोपल. तो देखो, in world history we'll discuss about this in detail. There was an empire, Byzantine Empire, right? Byzantine Empire, right? And later this Byzantine Empire, or you can say that an empire will do what? It will establish political control over the territories. ठीक है, दूसरा आएगा और उसकी टेरिटरीज को हड़प लेगा, यही होगा ना. So the Byzantine Empire, the territories which were previously controlled by the Byzantine Empire, basically it was replaced by Ottoman Empire. Byzantine Empire को replace किससे किया गया? ऑटोमन एम्पायर से. मेरी बात समझ गए? और ये जो ट्रांजिशन है, दैट बाइजेंटाइन एम्पायर वाज रिप्लेस्ड बाय ऑटोमन एम्पायर, the territories that were previously controlled by Byzantine Empire came under the control of Ottoman Empire. The process begins from here. The process begins from here. 1453. So this was an important center. Constantinople was an important center in 1453. Why it was a very important center of Byzantine Empire? Because it was lying at the junction of the famous trade route. ठीक है, जैसे मथुरा को, श्रावस्ती को एंशिएंट इंडिया में एडवांटेज था because they lied at the famous junction of the trade routes. In the same way, here what we see, Constantinople. Now let's use PPT to understand it better. Okay. Now look here. This event, fall of Constantinople, what you see here, that the conquest of Constantinople by Sultan Mehmed II of the Ottoman Empire. This event in history is known as fall of Constantinople. Is it clear? The dwindling Byzantine Empire came to an end when the Ottomans breached Constantinople's ancient land wall after besieging the city for 55 days. It's all about fall of Constantinople. It means that this city was captured by Ottoman Turks now. It was previously a part of the Byzantine Empire, okay? And it has also been written here that the fall of Constantinople and the Byzantine Empire was a watershed of the late Middle Ages, making the effective end of the Roman Empire. This event also marks the end of the Roman Empire. Byzantine Empire Roman Empire began roughly in 27 BC and had lasted nearly for 1500 years. ये रोमन एम्पायर, बाइजेंटाइन एम्पायर, जिसका एग्जिस्टेंस 1500 ईयर्स से भी ज़्यादा था, वो 1453 के बाद डिक्लाइन होता है. सो ऑब्वियसली दिस ईयर इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट इन हिस्ट्री फॉर मेनी मॉडर्न हिस्टोरियंस. द फॉल ऑफ कॉन्स्टेंटिनोपल मार्क्स द एंड ऑफ मिडिवल पीरियड एंड बिगिनिंग ऑफ द अर्ली मॉडर्न एजेस. तो इंडिया में जो, इंडियन हिस्ट्री में जो इंपॉर्टेंस 1757 का है, बैटल ऑफ प्लासी के ईयर का है, वैसा ही इंपॉर्टेंस वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री में किस ईयर का है? 1453. So you must remember this fact also, right? So 1453 marks what? The end of medieval period and the beginning of early modern period. That's why it is important in history, right? And this was the Byzantine Empire. These were the territories controlled by the Byzantine Empire. And you see here that it's here is the Constantinople, that is also known as Byzantium at that time. And this center was controlled by the Turks. Turks ने इसको control किया. अच्छा बताओ क्या होगा when Ottoman Turks will establish control over Byzantine Empire, and it is a transit point in trade and commerce. So will the trade and commerce be disrupted? हाँ, वो कहेंगे हमें पैसा खिलाओ, और पैसा देने के बाद भी इसकी गारंटी नहीं है कि बहुत सेफली आप ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स कर पाओगे. So what will happen? Trade and commerce will become expensive. जब expensive होगा तो you will try to find new routes. और एशिया में जो इंडिया का ट्रेड है, साउथ ईस्ट एशिया का ट्रेड है, इंडिया, ट्रेड विथ इंडिया वाज द मोस्ट प्रॉफिटेबल फॉर ऑल दीज यूरोपियन ग्रुप्स. और ब्रिटिश के लिए तो बहुत ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट था. British call India as a classic colony. British had a lot of colonies, hundreds of colonies all over the world, but British call India, you say India classic colony. That is, India was the most important colony among all other colonies. So what does it mean? That Asian trade is important, trade with India is important, and for that they need to find another route, and they discovered this route, that like I have discussed with you, that ultimately, right, new sea route will be discovered to India. This we have already discussed. Now here another important point: when the capture of Constantinople will be done, what will happen as a result? the people will leave this city. There were scholars, okay, there were, you can say that, intellectuals, scholars, painters, okay, they were living in Constantinople. Now they will do what? अब वो change कर देंगे शहर. From Constantinople they will reach to Italy. Italy चले जाएंगे. And now Italy will be the center or the birthplace for Renaissance. इटली एग्जैक्टली उस समय था नहीं, इट वॉज पार्ट ऑफ बाइजेंटाइन एम्पायर. ठीक है, इटली कब बनता है? वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री की क्लास में बताया था. यूनिफिकेशन ऑफ इटली एंड जर्मनी, व्हाट वाज द ईयर? दोज हु आर प्रेजेंट इन द वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री सेशन, ओके, गिव दिस आंसर. यूनिफिकेशन ऑफ इटली एंड जर्मनी, व्हाट वाज द ईयर? वेरी गुड. So Italy as a new country on the political map of Europe comes in 1870-71. But here there were territories here. Now look at this map. ठीक है, ये सब टेरिटरी किसका हिस्सा था? बाइजेंटाइन एम्पायर का उस समय हिस्सा हुआ करता था. And Italy, why Italy important and why the scholars fled from Constantinople to Italy? There is an important reason. ठीक है, अगर मान लो कि मैं दिल्ली में रह रहा हूँ और मैं सोचूं दिल्ली छोड़ के मैं किसी दूसरे शहर में जाता हूँ, ठीक है, तो मैं कहाँ जाना पसंद करूंगा? बताओ. रेवाड़ी में जाना चाहूंगा कि मुंबई जाना चाहूंगा? ठीक है, चलिए. तो Italy was presenting new prospect, and what was that prospect? Look here. Italy first felt huge economic changes in Europe from 11th to 13th century. ठीक है, 11th से 13th सेंचुरी के बीच में इटली में बहुत सारे चेंजेस हो रहे थे. ठीक है, और वो चेंजेस क्या है? तो देखो, पहली चीज, a rise in population, that is a demographic explosion, emergence of large cities, वेनिस, फ्लोरेंस, मिलान. ठीक है, मतलब इटली राइज कर रहा था. इटालियन सेटलमेंट्स जो थे, दे वर राइजिंग, एंड एडिशन टू मेनी अदर सिटीज लाइक जेनोआ, Bologna and Verona, which had over 50,000 inhabitants, and the rebuilding of the great cathedrals, migration from country to city, agrarian revolution, development of commerce. It means Italy was a rising urban center at that time. तो लोगों ने क्या किया? कॉन्स्टेंटिनोपल से सभी माइग्रेट करके कहाँ चले गए? इटली. एंड इन दिस वे इटली बिकम्स द बर्थ प्लेस ऑफ रेनेसा. So I want to say that this information is very important for you. Okay, so in your notes you must write year 1453. Write this information. This can be asked in prelims exam also. ठीक है, ये ऐसा नहीं सोचना है कि केवल वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री का इवेंट है. So write this 1453 AD. This year marks the end of medievalism in Europe also, and the beginning of early modern age. Okay, this year marks the end of medievalism and the beginning of early modern age. ये end of medievalism की भी बात करता है. It also talks about the beginning of early modern age. Second point, why this is important? So right, fall of Constantinople, that means fall of Constantinople, right? It means Constantinople was captured by fall of Constantinople means Constantinople was captured by Ottoman Turks. Constantinople was captured by Ottoman Turks, and in this way gradually Byzantine Empire, that's Roman Empire, was replaced by Ottoman Empire. Byzantine Empire, that's Roman Empire, was replaced by Ottoman Empire. वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री में जब हम फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर पढ़ेंगे तो उसके रीजन में एक रीजन ये भी है, 1914. उस फेज में क्या होगा? डिक्लाइन ऑफ ऑटोमन एम्पायर, और उससे जो स्टेट्स डिसइंटीग्रेट होंगे उनके कंट्रोल को लेके झगड़ा होगा. मेरी बात समझ गया ना? द इंपेरियलिस्टिक एक्ट्स, तो दैट आई विल डिस्कस. तो यहाँ पे आपको बात समझ में आई? 1453 कैप्चर ऑफ कॉन्स्टेंटिनोपल. ओके, राइट. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट, द read this, intellectuals and scholars migrated from Constantinople to Italy. Intellectuals and scholars migrated from Constantinople to Italy. And in this way Italy Italy becomes the birthplace of Renaissance. And in this way, Italy becomes the birthplace of Renaissance. In this way, Italy becomes the birthplace of Renaissance. This all was happening. Is it clear? Italy becomes the birthplace of Renaissance. Now again, a few more things. So one thing we have discussed here, that first feudalism, okay, it was prominent and stronger in medieval ages, that is during this period 500 AD to 14th 15th century AD. 14th 15th century AD, this we have already discussed. Now what we see is that further what will be promoted, commercial revolution will be promoted. Commercial revolution will be promoted, ठीक है ना? Commercial revolution will be promoted. Commercial revolution में there is a great impact of Renaissance. यहाँ क्या है? There is great impact of Renaissance. Progressive ideas and thoughts, new discoveries. There is a great impact in the promotion of commercial revolution. Basically, this is the time, 15th, 16th, 17th century, when this commercial revolution reached at its climax. This commercial revolution reached at its climax. This is the time period. Technically, it starts in 18th, 11th century AD. यहाँ से start है, but this is the time when it reached at its climax. This is the same like Bhakti movement. Bhakti movement started in India from south, 8th century AD, but reached at its climax in 15th, 16th, 17th century AD. वैसा ही है कुछ. Commercial revolution यहाँ शुरू होता है, but reached at its climax in this 15th, 16th and 17th century AD. अच्छा, this commercial revolution is further accompanied by what? This commercial revolution is further accompanied by age of discovery or exploration. It means what? New continents, new countries were discovered. They were discovered for what? So they were new continents. You can say that new continents were discovered. The main thing is what? Promotion of trade and commerce or promotion of 3G. And 3G is what? Okay, God, glory and gold. This is the main idea. Different European groups were coming to India for what? For 3G. That is, gold here means what? Gold means what? Trade and commerce. For this prospect, God means what? Promotion of their religion. That was also one of the most important agenda. Promotion of their religion. And glory means what? Promotion of their cultural influence. अपने cultural influence को भी promote करना एक idea था. When you will promote your cultural influence, what will happen? आप अपने गुड्स को इजीली बेच सकते हो. मेरी बात समझ गए ना? ठीक है. राजस्थान का दाल बाटी चूरमा आप नहीं खाते दिल्ली में. बिहार का बाटी चोखा नहीं खाते, बट मैकडी का पिज्जा और बर्गर जरूर खाते हो. ये कैसे हुआ? बिकॉज दे प्रोमोटेड देयर कल्चर. ठीक है. तो कल्चर प्रमोट करने से कंज्यूमर गुड्स को बेचना बहुत ही आसान हो जाता है. तो गॉड, ग्लोरी एंड गोल्ड वाज वन ऑफ द रीजन बिहाइंड ऑल दिस. अच्छा, इसका और आगे डेवलपमेंट होगा कि नहीं? होगा. कैसे? जैसे मान लो कि आप ब्रिटेन के रहने वाले हो एंड यू आर अ ट्रेडर, मर्चेंट. सपोज गिरीश इज अ मर्चेंट, विपिन इज अ मर्चेंट, राइट? Taranpreet is a merchant, and you are doing your individual trade, private trade or private business with other countries. ठीक है. कोई शिप लेके जा रहा है, आपने कहा यार मेरे भी पैसे लेते जा तू 2 लाख रुपए, कुछ स्पाइसेस मेरे लिए भी लाना, मैं यूरोपियन मार्केट में बेच लूंगा. दैट इज व्हाट? प्राइवेट ट्रेड, प्राइवेट बिजनेस. इट इज ऑर्गेनाइज्ड और नॉट ऑर्गेनाइज्ड? नॉट ऑर्गेनाइज्ड. जैसे इंडिया में छोटे छोटे दुकानदार हैं, देयर आर स्मॉल एंड पिटी शॉपकीपर्स हु हैव ओपनड देयर राशन शॉप्स इन कॉलोनीज. ठीक है. उन्होंने कॉलोनीज में राशन शॉप्स वगैरह ओपन कर रखे हैं, राइट? नाउ just imagine that when this business will be consolidated by some online platforms like Blinkit, the government will get more taxes from whom? ज्यादा सिस्टमेटिक वे में गवर्नमेंट को टैक्स किससे मिलेगा? छोटे शॉपकीपर से या बड़े ट्रेडर्स से? बड़े ट्रेडर्स से. तो जब भी ऑर्गेनाइज ट्रेड होगा, मेरी बात समझ गया ना? व्हेन द ट्रेड विल बी मोर ऑर्गेनाइज्ड, द स्टेट विल गेट बेनिफिटेड फ्रॉम दिस ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स. ठीक है. So here what the state will think, that the time has come that we should organize this trade. हमें इस ट्रेड को क्या करना चाहिए, ऑर्गेनाइज कर देना चाहिए. And in this situation, a new concept emerges here, and this concept is known as, right, this point is very important, this is known as merchant capitalism. This concept is known as merchant capitalism, or you can write this word also, mercantilism. अभी भी मेरी क्लास बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग नहीं लगेगी क्योंकि बहुत सारी चीज़ों को कनेक्ट कर रहा है. दैट इज द एग्जैक्ट नीड ऑफ आवर एग्जामिनेशन. व्हेनेवर यू आर रीडिंग एनीथिंग, एनी मॉड्यूल, दैट इज द एग्जैक्ट नीड. मेरी बात समझ गया ना? डिस्कशन करो. दैट्स व्हाई आई ऑलवेज से इन माय ईच एंड एवरी बैच दैट डू डिस्कशंस. दैट विल हेल्प यू अ लॉट. So merchant capitalism, what is this merchant capitalism? Okay, this is also called mercantilism. Merchant plus capitalism is known as merchant capitalism, and this is a concept which was popular during this period, 16th and 17th century. Can you define? आप में से कोई भी डिफाइन कर सकता है, और डेफिनेशन में अपने थॉट्स बताओ समझने के बाद. बुकिश लैंग्वेज इज नॉट नीडेड. यूपीएससी इज एग्जाम वेयर यू कैन यूज वेरी सिंपल इंग्लिश टू राइट योर पॉइंट्स. ठीक है, शशि थरूर बनने की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है. वेरी सिंपल पॉइंट्स, इजी कॉन्सेप्ट्स यू विल प्रेजेंट एंड यू विल गेट एक्सीलेंट मार्क्स. ठीक है, कहानी कहावत याद है ना जो बताता रहता हूँ, इफ देर इज अ गोस्ट देर इज अ तांत्रिक. जब सिलेबस डिफिकल्ट है ये बताऊंगा तभी तो आपको लगेगा कि मेरी ज़रूरत है, और मैं बता रहा हूँ डिफिकल्ट कुछ नहीं है, खुद से पढ़ सकते हो. ठीक है, डिस्कस करो, सारा खुद समझ में आ जाएगा. ठीक है, चलिए तो बताइए क्या है भाई, व्हाट इज दिस मर्चेंट कैपिटलिज्म? एनी वन ऑफ यू टेक हेल्प ऑफ इंटरनेट ऑल्सो, गूगल सर्च करके बताओ, समझा दो मुझे कि क्या है मर्चेंट कैपिटलिज्म. प्रिंस, थ्री इडियट्स के रैंचो की तरह बताओ, चतुर वाले लैंग्वेज में मत बताओ, मुझे समझाओ कि क्या है. समझाओ मुझे क्या है विथ एग्जाम्पल. मान लो मैं बिल्कुल लेमैन हूँ, मुझे नहीं समझ में आया, आपकी इंग्लिश नहीं समझ, मैं कैसे समझ, बताओ मुझे क्या है मर्चेंट कैपिटलिज्म. एग्जाम्पल देके बताओ. आपने जो बताया वो सही है, ठीक है, गुड, दैट इज गुड, बट थोड़ा इजी भाषा में बताओ. अच्छा, लक्ष्य, और कोई सजेस्ट मी सम मोर. जब भी पढ़ो तो उसको ब्रेक करो, कॉन्सेप्ट को आसान बनाओ. देखो मैं बता रहा हूँ आपको, ठीक है ना, नाउ यू कैन इजिली अंडरस्टैंड. यस, देखो क्या है, कितना आसान कॉन्सेप्ट है. वेरी इट्स दिस कॉन्सेप्ट इज वेरी इजी. द कॉन्सेप्ट इज दैट, लुक हियर, नाउ आई एम आस्किंग ऑफ फ्यू सिंपल क्वेश्चंस एंड यू विल गेट योर आंसर. इज देयर एनी डिफरेंस बिटवीन द स्टेट एंड एनी बिजनेसमैन, और द, क्या स्टेट में और मुकेश अंबानी में कोई अंतर है? यस. जब स्टेट का बजट बनता है तो व्हाट इज प्रायोरिटाइज, एक्सपेंडिचर और इनकम? एक्सपेंडिचर. और जब मुकेश अंबानी, अनिल अंबानी अपना बजट बनाएंगे, अनिल अंबानी को हटा देते हैं, तो वो किसको प्रायोरिटी में रखेंगे? एग्जैक्टली. प्राइवेट कंपनीज क्या करती हैं, थोड़ा सा लॉस हुआ तो ले ऑफ करेंगी. मेरी बात समझ गया ना? क्यों? क्योंकि उनके बजट में सबसे पहले क्या है? प्रॉफिट, इनकम. इनकम के अकॉर्डिंग एक्सपेंडिचर. स्टेट के केस में क्या है? एक्सपेंडिचर पहले, इनकम बाद में. मेरी बात समझ गए ना? स्टेट विल सेट इट्स ओन प्रायोरिटीज. So state is different from the individual merchants or the businessman. But what is the case here? When the state will start behaving like a merchant and will focus mainly on promotion of profit without caring for fair and unfair means, clear, this economic policy of the state is known as mercantilism. अब थोड़ा आसान भाषा में बताता हूँ, बहुत ज़्यादा इंग्लिश बोलने से कुछ नहीं होता है. तो व्हाट इज द इजी लैंग्वेज हियर? मर्चेंट कैपिटलिज्म. देखो कितना आसान कॉन्सेप्ट है. व्हेन द स्टेट इटसेल्फ बिहेव्स लाइक अ मर्चेंट, स्टार्ट बिहेविंग लाइक अ मर्चेंट, स्टेट मर्चेंट की तरह बिहेव करेगा. तो नाउ द कैपिटलिज्म क्या है? फोकस ऑन प्रॉफिट मेकिंग, यही है ना? तो नाउ द स्टेट इज डूइंग व्हाट? state will be more focused on what? Profit making. स्टेट का पूरा फोकस क्या हो जाएगा? प्रॉफिट मेकिंग, पूरा का पूरा फोकस प्रॉफिट मेकिंग। एंड दिस प्रॉफिट मेकिंग without caring for this profit making, without caring for fair and unfair means, without caring for fair and unfair means। ठीक है, मर्चेंट ये काम करता है, राइट? प्रीडेटरी प्राइसिंग एंड ऑल दिस आपने सुना होगा। सो द स्टेट विल स्टार्ट डूइंग दिस। फॉर एग्जांपल, द स्टेट विल डू व्हाट? एक एग्जांपल हम लेते हैं जो कि ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी का ही लेते हैं, इंग्लिश ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी। इंग्लिश ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी वाज गिवन व्हाट? मोनोपोलिस्टिक राइट्स। क्या दिया गया? मोनोपोलिस्टिक राइट्स। मोनोपोलिस्टिक राइट्स मींस व्हाट? द राइट दैट वाज गिवन टू ओनली वन ट्रेडिंग कंपनी। केवल एक ट्रेडिंग कंपनी को यह राइट है कि ब्रिटेन से केवल और केवल इंडिया के साथ कौन ट्रेड कर सकता है? ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी। अदर ट्रेडिंग कंपनीज आर नॉट अलाउड टू डू द सेम। If you are private businessman, individual businessman, you are restricted, you are not allowed to do the same। अब आप इंडिया के साथ अपना प्राइवेट बिजनेस नहीं कर सकते हैं। So this is what state is putting a lot of restrictions now on the private players, on the individual businessmen and the other companies also। And now the state is openly giving privilege to a particular company, that is East India Company। And now the state is saying that East India Company is a joint venture company. This is a company of shareholders। So if you want to do trade and commerce with India, तो आपको ये अकेले नहीं करना है। डोंट डू इट इंडिविजुअली, कैन परचेज द शेयर्स ऑफ ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी एंड ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी विल डू ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स। नाउ गवर्नमेंट हैज डन व्हाट? दे हैव ऑर्गेनाइज्ड दिस सिस्टम ऑफ ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स, and this organized system of trade and commerce will give more benefits to the British economy। इससे किसको ज्यादा फायदा मिलेगा? ब्रिटिश इकोनॉमी को। लेकिन इसमें क्या हुआ? रिस्ट्रिक्शंस इंपोज हुए। किस पे रिस्ट्रिक्शंस इंपोज हुए? वही बात आकाश बता रहे थे कि रिस्ट्रिक्शंस इंपोज हुए प्राइवेट बिजनेसमैन में, रिस्ट्रिक्शंस इंपोज हुए अदर ट्रेडिंग कंपनीज में। द रिस्ट्रिक्शंस वर इंपोज्ड। मेरी बात आपको समझ में आई? नाउ द स्टेट विल डू व्हाट? द स्टेट कैन यूज अनफेयर टैरिफ पॉलिसी टू प्रोमोट इट्स ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स। अनफेयर टैरिफ पॉलिसी, ठीक है? For example, if Indian goods are flooded in Britain's market, so the state can do what? They can increase the import duty। In this way, they can discourage the imports। Import को कम कर सकती है। Now East India Company came to India in 1757। East India Company become a ruling company and the state is silent। State चुप है। क्यों चुप है भाई? This is indirect British rule in India। Basically, who is supporting East India Company? British government is supporting East India Company। कभी आपने सुना है क्या, ठीक है, कि अंबानी की कंपनी के आप सीईओ और आपके साथ सीआईएसएफ की बटालियन चल रही है, अफ्रीका जा रहे हो? तो नहीं। लेकिन ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी के ऑफिसर्स, ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी के जब डायरेक्टर्स यहाँ थे तो दे वर सपोर्टेड बाय द ब्रिटिश ट्रूप्स। ये भी बड़ी अजीब बात है कि अ ट्रेडिंग कंपनी इज सपोर्टेड बाय द ट्रूप्स, ब्रिटिश ट्रूप्स। फॉर व्हाट पर्पस? The state is doing what? Here there is a clear relation between the East India Company, there is a clear relation between the British government, because during this 15th to 17th century, which economic ideology was becoming prominent? Merchant capitalism। Not only Britain, Portugal, French company, यही पढ़ते हो ना, French company, Dutch company, English East India Company। It means all the state governments had organized that system of trade and commerce to maximize their gains and profit। And here the main motive is to increase the supply of bullions। Bullions here means precious metals। अगर हम ज्यादा से ज्यादा एक्सपोर्ट करेंगे तो हमारे पास ज्यादा से ज्यादा फॉरेन करेंसी आएगी। इफ वी विल इंक्रीज आवर एक्सपोर्ट्स वी विल गेट मोर फॉरेन करेंसी इन रिटर्न, राइट? और अगर हम इंपोर्ट्स बढ़ा देंगे तो क्या होगा? We will have to pay for that। So merchant capitalism says that we have to increase our exports and minimize our imports, and for that if the state thinks that putting restrictions is good, the state can put restrictions। The main focus of the state is to increase its profits विदाउट केयरिंग फॉर फेयर एंड अनफेयर मीन्स। यही बात एडम स्मिथ लिखता है वेल्थ ऑफ नेशंस में कि अगर यही बात सारे स्टेट सोच ले, इफ ऑल द स्टेट्स विल स्टार्ट डूइंग द सेम, व्हाट विल हैपन? अल्टीमेटली द ग्लोबल ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स विल crumble. So this is not a good thing. And the state should do what? State should, okay, have a state should have least interference in market. No interference, least interference. That's free trade policy, less is fair. State को restrictions कम से कम करना चाहिए. So in this phase we see what? Merchant capitalism. ये बात आपको समझ में आई? So formation of East India Company was a part of this economic policy. It was a part of this merchant capitalism. East India Company was joint venture company, and in India company was ruling. This was the first case in the world where a company was ruling a country. And this is the first example of corporate violence in the world. Corporate corruption and corporate violence in the world. The rule of India by East India Company, and this is the indirect British rule in India. Got it? समझ में आया? That is merchant capitalism. ठीक है ना? ये वो दौर था. Okay, so when British East India Company came to India, so the company was given this monopolistic right, okay, as a part of this economic policy, because this merchant capitalism is during this phase 16th to 17th century AD. This was happening. Clear? Now you are familiar with a lot of things here, okay, that what are the factors that promoted different European groups to come to India? आंसर लिख सकते हो? क्या फैक्टर्स हैं that promoted different group of? तो पहला फैक्टर क्या है? The rich economic prospect that was presented by India. That was presented by India. This is the first important factor. The rich economic prospect that was presented by India. And what is the second important point here? Okay, socio-economic and political conditions in Europe. In Europe, they are also responsible. Socio-economic and political conditions in Europe. What else is responsible here? So we can say that end of feudalism, right? Beginning of modern ages, impact of Renaissance. This is also one factor. Impact of Renaissance. This is also one factor, right? Then we can say that fall of Constantinople in 1453, and as a result, discovery of new sea routes. Fall of Constantinople, and as a result, discovery of new sea routes. एक ये भी रीजन था. Fall of Constantinople and discovery of new sea routes. Okay, now the next point, right? Next important point will be merchant capitalism. This is also one reason. Organized trade को promote किया जाएगा कि आप दूसरी countries में जाओ. Merchant capitalism. Okay. What could be the other reason? Merchant capitalism. Okay. Here we have written Renaissance. You can write one more point. Okay. Scientific discoveries and inventions. This is also an important point. Scientific discoveries and inventions. ठीक है ना? Scientific discoveries and inventions. All these are important points. Okay. ट्रेड रूट्स की बात मैं बता ही चुका हूँ. न्यू ट्रेड रूट्स वर डिस्कवर्ड. ठीक है. पहले क्या होगा? सी रूट में पोर्टुगीज एंड स्पेनिश विल डेवलप देयर मोनोपोली. ठीक है. इन सारे फैक्टर्स के अलावा, अपार्ट फ्रॉम ऑल दीज फैक्टर्स, वन फैक्टर इज ऑल्सो इंपॉर्टेंट, एंड दैट इज द इंडियन रूलर्स. ओके. They encouraged international trade or discouraged it? They welcomed Europeans or did not welcome Europeans? Exactly. This is the most important point. Okay, that I will discuss later, that how trade relaxations were given by the Mughal emperors to the British merchants. So write this: the outlook of the Indian rulers. They welcomed foreign traders and merchants, and they even provided them. They welcomed foreign traders and merchants. They welcomed foreign traders and merchants, and they provided them trade relaxations also. And they provided them trade relaxations also. They provided trade relaxations also. समझ में आया आपको क्या हो रहा है? They provided trade relaxations also. Clear? There are so many factors that they were promoted, and one point that is very important, that read this: different European groups were motivated by the idea of 3G, which I have already discussed with you. They were also motivated by the idea of 3G. Okay, that is gold, glory, and God. Okay. Basically, we have to write 150 word answers. Okay. So when we understand or discuss a content, we can easily write 150 words answers in a bullet format. So write this question. Okay. Discuss various factors. Write this question. Discuss various factors. Discuss various factors that encouraged or motivated. Discuss various factors that encouraged or motivated different European groups to come to India. That encouraged or motivated different European groups to come to India. Discuss various factors that encouraged or motivated different European groups to come to India. Okay, 150 words. You have to write in 150 words. Okay, now we are entering into the second part. And what is second part? These different groups were in chronological order. They were Portuguese, Dutch, English, and French. Danes are also there, but Danes are not that much important. ठीक है, Danes उतने ज़्यादा important नहीं है. So that is the Portuguese, Dutch, English, and French. Now we will start from here. Okay, Portuguese in India. Portuguese in India. This topic. Now, while discussing this theme, we need to get few answers. And what are these questions that should come in our mind? Simple questions. आप क्या सवाल पूछ सकते हो इससे related? Very simple questions. That when Portuguese came, okay. Simple question क्या हो गए? When Portuguese came, why they came, what was their intention, right? They came to India for what purpose? Trade and commerce or to rule? What was their main objective? What was policies in India? Okay, this we need to discuss. Clear? And how the Portuguese were not successful in developing India as their colony. So why they failed? So these are some simple questions that we need to answer. Portuguese in India. Okay. So write some. You can say that facets here that I will discuss. Write point one. Write this. Okay. Some important facts. Some important facts regarding Portuguese presence in India. These facts will be important for Prelims examination. Okay, regarding Portuguese presence in India. Second important point. Okay, right. Intentions or objectives. What was the intentions or objectives of Portuguese in India? Intentions or objectives. Right. Third is aspect here. Third is intentions or objectives. The third point is policies. And the fourth point is why Portuguese failed. Policies. And the fourth point is why Portuguese failed. Policies and why Portuguese failed. This we need to answer. Why Portuguese failed. Now, देखो, the story starts from here. That's some important facts. And what are these important facts? So we all know that, okay, read this. Portugal plus Spain. Okay, Portugal plus Spain were dominating European trade at that time. They were dominating European trade at that time. The first important point. Portugal and Spain were dominating European trade at that time. And what they did, okay, so in the age of discovery, in the age of discovery, the rulers of these countries, the rulers of these countries in the age of discovery, the rulers of these countries, okay, patronized, that means supported or funded sea voyages. Rulers of these countries did what? They patronized. It means they supported or funded. Patronized, it means they supported or funded sea voyages. They patronized, they supported, they funded sea voyages. उसको support किया, fund किया. Right? Example number one. Example number one. Right? Okay. कोलंबस. 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 कोलंबस कहाँ का रहने वाला था? स्पेन. कहाँ पहुंचा? अमेरिका. तो इसके लिए सी वॉयजेस के लिए फंडिंग किसने की? द रूलर ऑफ स्पेन. दिस इज द पॉइंट हियर. सो राइट दिस. ओके. कोलंबस. कोलंबस ब्रैकेट में लिख लेना स्पेन. दिस इज अ हिंट दैट हु सपोर्टेड कोलंबस, हु फंडेड? द रूलर ऑफ स्पेन. राइट दिस. कोलंबस फ्रॉम स्पेन रिच्ड अमेरिका इन 1492. ये 1492 में पहुंचा. राइट. नेक्स्ट एग्जांपल. ओके. वास्को डेगामा. वास्को डेगामा. और ये कहाँ से था? पुर्तगाल. he reached India when 1498 AD. he reached, okay, at Calicut. The ruler Chamorro welcomed, okay, so Columbus from Spain. Vasco da Gama from Portugal, okay, he reached India in 1498 AD. That is the end of 15th century. And here the ruler of Portugal, basically here there is an important name, that is Prince Henry the Navigator. Read this. Prince Henry. Why this name is important? Because he is popularly known as the Navigator. Prince Henry is popularly known as the Navigator. The Navigator का मतलब क्या हो गया? The one who promotes sea voyages. ठीक है? So this is one reason that Portuguese were the first to reach India. ये बात आपको समझ में आ गई? Portuguese were the first to reach India. Okay? Now, the next important point here is that, okay, देखो, there was another name, that is Bartholomew Diaz. Bartholomew Diaz. This is one name, and Vasco da Gama is another name. ठीक है? Vasco da Gama is another name. ठीक है? So why Bartholomew Diaz is important? So when we look at this map, okay, look at this map. देखो क्या है, वाई बार्थोलोम्यू डियाज नेम इज इंपॉर्टेंट. तो बार्थोलोम्यू डियाज हैज ऑलरेडी डिस्कवर्ड दिस रूट. ठीक है ना? लेकिन वो बार्थोलोम्यू डियाज, एग्जैक्टली, ठीक है, यहां तक तो बार्थोलोम्यू डियाज आ चुका था. मेरी बात समझ गए? बट ही रिटर्न फ्रॉम हियर. यहीं से वो वापस हो गया 1487 में. एंड व्हाट अबाउट वास्को डे गामा? वास्को डे गामा डिस्कवर्ड दिस रिमेनिंग रूट. यहां तक तो हम ऑलरेडी फेमिलियर थे. Bartholomew Diaz reached till this point, and then Vasco da Gama discovered this part. ये वाला पार्ट किसने डिस्कवर किया? वास्को डे गामा ने. ठीक है ना? तो दैट्स वाई बार्थोलोम्यू डियाज नेम इज ऑल्सो इम्पॉर्टेंट. ठीक है ना? तो ये अटलांटिक तक तो पहुंचा था, बट कह सकते हो कि ये मतलब ये केप ऑफ गुड होप वाला रूट डिस्कवर नहीं कर पाया. ओके. सो राइट दिस. वन नेम इज बार्थोलोम्यू डियाज 1498, and the second name is Vasco da Gama. Sorry, 1487. Bartholomew Diaz, year is 1487, and Vasco da Gama reached India in 1498. Now the local rulers, that's called Zamorin. Calicut, Kerala, welcomed. Yes, Vipin, ask your question. No, Bartholomew Diaz was from Portugal. Basically Portugal and Spain, ठीक है ना, ये दोनों जो थे ना एक साथ थे, एक पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम में थे, ठीक है ना उस समय. तो देखो, this point is clear. Now we are entering into the next part, and that is right. Now Portuguese were in India. Now what was the purpose? Okay, so देखो, the first point is Portuguese company. We use this word na, Portuguese company. It means this was also an example of organized trade. This was also an example of organized trade. So initially it was not organized, but later it became organized. And when it will be organized, what will happen? Okay, there will be the governors of this company who will govern the administrative activities of this Portuguese company. There will be the governors who will govern the administrative activities of this Portuguese company. Governors भी होंगे जो इस Portuguese company के okay administrative activities को govern करेंगे. Now read this. First Portuguese viceroy or governor. First Portuguese viceroy or governor. Okay, what was the name of this person? FDA. Name of this person is FDA, and that is Francisco de Almeida. Francisco de Almeida. This is the name of this person. FDA, Francisco de Almeida. And the time period here is 1509 to 1505 to 1509 AD. ये time period है 1509 to 1505 to 1509 AD. अब देखो यहाँ पे समझना क्या है आपको. वास्को डी गामा पहली बार कब आता है? 1498. ठीक है. And now the first viceroy of Portuguese company we see in which year? 1505. And after this, when you look at the Portuguese policy, you will find that this viceroy will introduce some Portuguese policy, and this shows that the Portuguese in India, obviously they came from trade, they came for trade, but they don't have humble beginnings. Humble beginnings नहीं है, फर्क महसूस करना है. When English East India Company came, the English traders and merchants have a very humble beginning. They were following the policy of trade plus diplomacy. And what Portuguese company was doing? This I am going to discuss. Their policy is different from English East India Company. British were the good learners. They will learn from the Portuguese. So right here, point one, write some policy. One policy is blue water policy. Blue water policy. That is one policy. Blue water policy. The second point, write this: fighting wars with the local rulers. Fighting wars with the local rulers and controlling the territories. Fighting wars with the local rulers and controlling the territories, or attempts to control the territories. Okay, fighting wars with the local rulers. Right, next point: attempts to establish supremacy over the territories, land and sea both. Attempts to establish supremacy over the territories, that is land and sea both. Attempts to establish okay territories over land and sea both. All this is happening. Now I have given you one point, that is blue water policy. What is that? Clear? So I told you that first, who were the early birds in the sea voyages? Portugal and Spain. So the early birds will get more advantage. So basically in this phase the entire sea trade was dominated by Portuguese. सबसे ज़्यादा दबदबा किसका था? Portuguese का. The entire sea trade was dominated and monopolized by Portuguese. So Portuguese were very powerful in the sea. Now they will do what? They will start creating troubles for the Indian merchants. Clear? In the Indian Ocean itself. And they will say that if you want to do trade and commerce using this Indian Ocean, okay, if you want to use this Indian Ocean, okay, trade route, you will have to take license from the Portuguese. The system is called Cartas de Armada. We will give you license. We will approve you for using this trade route, and for that you will give us fee. For that, आप हमें पैसा दोगे. And if we will not give fee, we will attack on your ships. हम आपके ships पे attack करेंगे. Okay, we may seize your ships. हम आपके ships को seize भी कर सकते हैं. What does it mean? Portuguese were trying to establish their supremacy over Indian Ocean region. Clear? Because they were powerful at the seas. Now tell me, this will create dissatisfaction in the minds of the local rulers or not? Yes, this will create dissatisfaction in the minds of the local rulers. ये तो वही Portuguese हैं जिनको हमने welcome किया था. And now they are implementing the policy of blue water. They are introducing Cartes de Armada system. So this policy is what? Humble beginning or aggressive beginning? Aggressive beginning. And they are also trying to fight wars with the local rulers कि कुछ forts capture कर ले, कुछ territories capture कर ले. Okay, this they are doing. So the basic purpose for which all the Europeans came to India was 3G. यही तो था ना basic purpose, 3G. 3G means what? God, glory and gold. But here the Portuguese were more interested in God and glory instead of gold. Trade and commerce से ज़्यादा interest इनका किस बात में था? Promotion of their religion, promotion of their culture. Trade and commerce सबसे least priority वाला topic था इनके लिए. But for English East India Company, out of 3G उनका पूरा focus कहाँ था? Gold. That is trade and commerce. ये difference है Portuguese और British में. Portuguese are not very good diplomats. British merchants were very good diplomats also. Clear? So this point, do you understand? Write one more point, that is blue water policy. तो अब आप समझ गए ना? लिख लो उसको, blue water policy. And there is another word, that is Cartas de Armada. Cartas de Armada. Blue water policy से ही जुड़ा हुआ है. This is okay related to that blue water policy. Blue water policy and Cartas de Armada system. और ये क्या है? Write this. The Portuguese attempt to establish supremacy in the Indian Ocean region. The Portuguese attempts to establish supremacy in the Indian Ocean region. Portuguese attempt to establish supremacy in the Indian Ocean region. Clear? Cartes de Armada क्या है? Giving license to the merchants or the traders who were using Indian Ocean route. Giving license to the merchants or traders who were using the Indian Ocean as their trade route. ठीक है? Giving license to the merchants and traders who were using Indian Ocean as their trade route. Clear? That's Cartas de Armada. Right, next point. Out of 3G, the Portuguese were more interested in. Out of 3G, the Portuguese were more interested. Out of 3G, the Portuguese were more interested in God and glory. Out of 3G, Portuguese were more interested in God and glory. And bracket, you can write that gold, that is trade and commerce. Portuguese were more interested in God and glory. And then you will write that gold, that is trade and commerce, was their least priority. Trade and commerce was their least priority. उनकी सबसे least priority क्या है? That was trade and commerce. मेरी बात समझ गए? ये है. अब क्या होता है? The next governor, write the next governor's name. ADA, that is Alfonso de Albuquerque. Okay. पहला था FDA, second is ADA. ADA. Alfonso de Albuquerque. This is 1505 to 1509, and this is 1509 to 1515. Okay, 1515. And here what we see? Continuance of the previous policies. We see what? Continuance. Continuance of the previous policies. पहले वाली policy continue है. Continuance of the previous policies. Continuance of the previous policies. Right, next point. Blue water policy will be continued or not? Yes, write this, continuance of blue water policy. Continuance of blue water policy. And write one more point that is very much important. Dekho, it is said that this governor did what? This governor encouraged Portuguese in India that they should marry Indian women. Clear? And this was not considered good by the Indian people. The Indian people will call it forced marriage. वो क्या कहेंगे? Forced marriage. ठीक है? So this was done. So this is what? A kind of interference in the socio-cultural practices of the Indians. मेरी बात समझ गए? ये क्या है? एक तरह का interference. Indians will not like this. So Portuguese are also doing what? Portuguese are also interfering in the socio-cultural practices of the Indians. And when I will discuss with you British presence in India, you will find that, okay, in the initial stages, British did not interfere in the socio-cultural practices of Indians because Indians might react. और लोकल पॉपुलेशन जब रिएक्ट करेगी तो आपका प्रेजेंस इंडिया में क्या हो सकता है? खतरे में पड़ सकता है. Portuguese will do also what? They will also abolish sati in some particular areas which were under their control. This is also like interferences in the local customs practices of the Indian people. Indian people will not like this. So write this point, that interference in the socio-cultural practices of Indians. ADA, Alfonso de Albuquerque. Interference in the socio-cultural practices of Indians. Interference in the socio-cultural practices of Indians. Okay, example. Example is what? Abolition of custom of sati in some particular areas of their control. Abolition of the practice of custom of sati in some particular areas of their control. Abolition of the practice of custom of sati in some particular areas of their control. This is one point, right? Next point, forced marriages were promoted. Forced marriages were promoted. Forced marriages were promoted. ठीक है? Forced marriages भी promote हो रहे हैं. Forced marriage का मतलब आपको बता चुका हूं ना? Okay, that Indians will be encouraged. उनको encourage किया जाएगा that they should what? Sorry, Portuguese will be encouraged. Mixed marriages. You can also write mixed marriages. Forced marriages or mixed marriages will be promoted. Forced marriages or mixed marriages promoted. And right next, the most important point, read this, important military conquest. Military conquests. And here the example is very important. These two facts are very important. Okay, military conquest, the facts are very important. So ADA did what? Alfonso de Albuquerque did what? Okay, ADA did what? So right, okay, 1509 and 1510. 1509 and 1510, right? 1509, he conquered Diu. He conquered Diu, and 1510 he conquered Goa. And this fact is more important. 1510 he conquered Goa. ADA ने क्या किया? He conquered Goa. Okay. You can write one more fact, that Goa was at that time under the control of Adil Shahi rulers of Bijapur. At that time, Goa was under the control of Adil Shahi rulers of Bijapur. At that time, Goa was under the control of आदिल शाही रूलर्स ऑफ बीजापुर. वो बीजापुर के आदिल शाही रूलर्स के कंट्रोल में था, राइट? गोवा वाज अंडर द कंट्रोल ऑफ आदिल शाही रूलर्स ऑफ बीजापुर. अच्छा, इस फैक्ट ऑल्सो टेल्स अ स्टोरी. फैक्ट हमें स्टोरी बताती है, और वो स्टोरी क्या है? 1498 वास्को डी गामा आया था. एंड दिस इज व्हाट? कितना साल हुआ है अभी? अभी ठीक से 10 साल होने जा रहे हैं. 1509, 1510, you are controlling territories, fighting with the local rulers. You have established control over Goa. What about the local rulers? They will start looking at the Portuguese with doubt and suspicion. And is it good for your presence in India? No. local population is not happy because you are interfering in the social cultural practices, and now the local rulers, they are also not happy. So what is this? This is lack of diplomatic outlook. Clear? This is not humble beginning, this is aggressive beginning. तो फैक्ट से ये स्टोरी आपको निकालनी है. So have you written this ADA? Read this. These policies clearly indicate that these policies clearly indicates that, okay, this is not the humble beginnings. This is not the humble beginnings. Okay, and here the Portuguese lack diplomatic outlook or approach. The Portuguese lacked diplomatic outlook or approach. Portuguese lacked diplomatic outlook and approach. Okay, and write one more fact. Write this. Okay, ADA set up Cochin as the headquarter of Portuguese. This is very important. Cochin. Okay, ADA set up कोचीन एज इट्स हेडक्वार्टर. इसने कहाँ को हेडक्वार्टर बनाया? कोचीन को. नाउ द नेक्स्ट नेम इज एनडीसी. एनडीसी देखो, अदर गवर्नर्स नेम आर आल्सो देयर, सो वी आर ओनली डिस्कसिंग दोज हु आर इंपॉर्टेंट. दैट इज नीनो डे कुन्हा. ओके, एंड द टाइम पीरियड इज 1529 to 1538. दैट इज नीनो डे कुन्हा. नीनो डी कुन्हा. The time period is 1529 to 1538. So what we see here, continuance of the policies, right? This continuance of the policies, and the most important point here about this fact here is that NDC transferred the headquarter. Previously the headquarter was Cochin, and now he transferred the headquarter to Goa. Previously the headquarter was Cochin, and now he transferred the headquarter to Goa. ठीक है, transferred the headquarter to Goa. Have you written? Now with the help of these facts we will try to, okay, make some common points of analysis. And what are these common points of analysis? Portuguese में कुछ बातें आपको पता चल गई. Okay, they lacked more focus on God and glory. Second point, they don't have humble beginnings, right? They are more aggressive. They lacked what? Diplomatic outlook. Got it? Okay. They interfere in the social cultural practices of the Indians. They tried to dominate Indian Ocean. They tried to create troubles for the Indian merchants and the rulers. Local population was also not happy. Local rulers were also not happy. Will it be the reason for the decline of Portuguese in India or not? Yes, the same point we can also use, okay, as the reason for the decline of Portuguese power in India. So write a topic, that is why Portuguese failed. I will also discuss some more facts about the important areas which Portuguese controlled, Dutch controlled. I will discuss it lastly. ठीक है, अब तक के जितने क्वेश्चंस हैं उसमें इंक्लूड कर लेंगे. So write this, why Portuguese failed. Why Portuguese failed. Portuguese, why they failed. So write some common points. Write point 1 that I discussed. Okay, right. Aggressive beginning, that's not humble beginnings. Aggressive beginnings, not humble beginnings. Aggressive beginnings, that's, they don't have humble beginnings. Right, next point, they lacked diplomatic outlook. They lacked diplomatic outlook. They lacked diplomatic outlook. That's the second point. And the third is, right, okay, interference in the socio-cultural practices of the Indians. Interference in the social cultural practices of the Indians. And you will write example in your answer, since we have already written that, so I am not explaining that. Okay, so interference in the social cultural practices. What will be the example? Post marriages, mixed marriages, and abolition of सती. ठीक है, तो ये तो हम लिख देंगे. ठीक है, अच्छा ये भी तो है ना, इंटरफेरेंस में क्या है? प्रोमोट, इफ यू विल डू व्हाट, promote Christianity, if you will promote Portuguese culture, so that is also will come here na. Okay, so 2G का जो promotion है, that is also will be an example here. Right, third point, read this. Okay, fighting wars with the local rulers to establish control over territories like forts, etc. fighting wars with the local rulers, fighting wars with the local rulers, fighting wars with the local rulers. ठीक है ना, आपको पता है, एग्जाम्पल दे दोगे, यू ऑलरेडी नो द एग्जाम्पल, लोकल रूलर्स के साथ फाइट किया, ब्रैकेट में लिख लो, द लोकल रूलर्स वेर, द लोकल रूलर्स वेर dissatisfied, they were doubtful, dissatisfied, doubtful about the presence of Portuguese, doubtful about the presence of Portuguese. There is a context of Vijayanagar also that I will discuss in next class. ठीक है ना, विजयनगर के साथ कनेक्ट करके बताऊंगा इस टॉपिक को. इज इट क्लियर? राइट, नेक्स्ट पॉइंट. ओके, you can write this, a blue water policy and Cartes de Amada. इससे क्या होगा? Local rulers and traders, merchants will be dissatisfied. Blue water policy, Cartes de Amada. Okay, blue water policy, Cartes de Amada. Okay, so the local rulers, merchants will be dissatisfied. Now I am writing here 2 points. One is trade plus piracy, and here I am writing trade plus diplomacy, trade plus piracy, and this point is what? Trade plus diplomacy. Now tell me, trade plus piracy is the policy of Portuguese in India, and trade plus diplomacy was the policy of English merchants, that I will discuss in that topic. Okay, आपने नाम सुना होगा, सर थॉमस रो. Okay, Captain William Hawkins, they were sent in the court of the Mughal Emperor Jahangir. Why they were sent? To get trade relaxations, commercial privileges. They were sent. So this is the policy of Portuguese. So this is the reason that they will fail. Fail होना ही है. Trade plus piracy, यही तो है blue water policy. Cartes de Amada, ठीक है. Trade plus piracy. यहाँ पे क्या है? आउट ऑफ 3G, गॉड एंड ग्लोरी वॉज गिवन मोर इंपॉर्टेंस. गोल्ड, ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स वॉज नॉट देयर फोकस, एंड ब्रिटिश डिड व्हाट? आउट ऑफ 3G दे वेर मोर फोकस्ड ऑन गोल्ड, दैट इज ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स. यहाँ पे सबसे ज्यादा फोकस था. दे वेर मोर फोकस्ड ऑन गोल्ड, दैट इज ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स. ठीक है, सबसे ज्यादा फोकस यही था, गोल्ड और ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स. नाउ वी आर कमिंग टू द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट, एंड दैट इज, देखो, Portuguese were present in India, and at the same time they also discovered Brazil. Brazil, Portuguese India में present थे, and at the same time they also discovered Brazil. Brazil को भी discover कर दिया, and now the Portuguese were more interested in Brazil. So what will happen? This is also be one reason for their failure in India. So you can write here that Portuguese were more interested in Brazil. Portuguese were more interested in Brazil. Portuguese were more interested in Brazil. Portuguese का ज़्यादा इंटरेस्ट कहाँ पे है? ब्राज़ील में है. ओके, राइट, नेक्स्ट पॉइंट. ओके, देखो क्या होगा. जैसे मैंने आपको कहा कि P प्लस S, पुर्तगाल प्लस स्पेन. ठीक है, ये दोनों का सिस्टम एक ही था उस समय. वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री में डिस्कस करेंगे क्या था. अब देखो क्या, पुर्तगाल स्पेन बोथ वेर टुगेदर, एंड नाउ स्पेन विल फाइट वॉर विथ इंग्लैंड. स्पेन विथ फाइट वॉर विथ इंग्लैंड. स्पेन विल फाइट वॉर विथ इंग्लैंड. So this war, will it affect the Portuguese presence in India? Obviously the war will affect. ठीक है, so this war will affect, this war will affect, this war will affect Portuguese presence in India. This war will affect Portuguese presence in India. तो एक तो इसका भी इम्पैक्ट होगा. एंड नाउ इसके बाद देखो क्या होगा. There will be some problems here. Now Portuguese and Spanish, इन दोनों के बीच में एक कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है. Portuguese और Spanish, इन दोनों के बीच में कॉन्फ्लिक्ट होगा. और जब एक कॉन्फ्लिक्ट होगा, when this conflict will take place, तो दुश्मन का दुश्मन क्या होता है? दोस्त होता है. यहाँ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट किसके किसके बीच में है? स्पेन एंड इंग्लैंड. नाउ द रिलेशंस बिटवीन पुर्तगाल एंड England विल इम्प्रूव ऑटोमेटिकली। ठीक है, यही है डिप्लोमेसी, दुश्मन का दुश्मन दोस्त। इन दोनों के बीच में रिलेशंस इंप्रूव हो जाएंगे। एंड व्हेन दीज रिलेशंस विल इंप्रूव, व्हेन दीज रिलेशंस विल इंप्रूव, these relations will further reach to matrimonial relations, matrimonial relations में बदल जाएगा। and the very famous example of this matrimonial relation, कोई बता पाएगा what will be the answer? The very famous example of this matrimonial relation, exactly, okay. So here what we see that the British prince was married to Portuguese princess Catherine, और Portuguese ने क्या किया, they gifted the territories, that is territories around Bombay, पूरा Bombay नहीं था, that was some territory, they gifted these territories to British, and in this way British got Bombay as the dowry। बताओ, कंट्री हमारा, दहेज कहीं और चल रहा है, British got Bombay as the dowry, उनको डाउरी में मिल गया। ठीक है, so this will happen, so this will further reach to matrimonial relations, okay, and in this way we see that the Portuguese will gift Bombay to ब्रिटिश, ये बॉम्बे गिफ्ट कर देंगे ब्रिटिश को। अब एक सिंपल सी बात आपको समझनी है कि इन इंडिया पोर्टुगीज के बाद कौन आता है, डच, डच के बाद कौन है, इंग्लिश, और इंग्लिश के बाद कौन है, फ्रेंच। ध्यान से समझो इस बात को, पोर्टुगीज का पहले से ही इंटरेस्ट ज्यादा कहाँ है, ब्राजील में। दूसरी चीज, डच उतने इंपॉर्टेंट राइवल्स नहीं है, डच आर नॉट दैट मच इंपॉर्टेंट राइवल्स। हु आर द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट राइवल्स हियर, इंग्लिश और फ्रेंच सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट थे, यहां तो इंग्लिश ही है। नाउ व्हाट विल हैपन, द relations between Portugal and British will improve automatically. What will happen? Now Portuguese in India are the most important claimants of power. No, the Portuguese in India are not the most important claimants of power. इनकी दावेदारी खुद ही खत्म हो गई। मेरी बात समझ गया ना? So in this way we see the decline of Portuguese power in India. Okay, so you can write here that the relations between Portuguese and English will improve, and now the Portuguese were not most powerful claimants of power in India. Now Portuguese were not the most powerful claimants of power in India. They were not claimants of power in India. No more claimants of power in India. So Portuguese challenge was over. Portuguese challenge was over. Is it clear? Now, in this topic, there are some important facts that which were the important Portuguese settlements in India, which were the important Dutch settlements in India, which were the important French settlements in India, which were important English settlements in India. What was the first factory where it was set up by Portuguese, first factory of French, Dutch? इसको last में देखेंगे on map. Okay, so let's discuss the concept part first, and then I will discuss facts also. Okay, right, next point. Okay, cultural interaction, or impact of Portuguese presence in India. Cultural interaction or impact of Portuguese presence in India. क्या है cultural interaction? So obviously, if any foreign group will come and stay in India, so obviously there will be some sort of cultural interaction होगा. Right, point one. Okay, क्या क्या cultural interaction है? तो सबसे important क्या है? Printing press in India was introduced by Portuguese. That is the most important point. Printing press was introduced by Portuguese. Right, next point. Portuguese also set up some educational institutions. Right, third point. Some attempts were made to promote Orientalism also. Orientalism means research on Indian history, culture. Okay, some attempts were also made to promote Orientalism in India also. Orientalism के लिए भी कुछ effort हुआ. Okay, some efforts were made to promote Orientalism also. And lastly क्या है कि we can say is that, okay, many varieties of fruits, vegetables were introduced by the पोर्टुगीज। जैसे जिसके लास्ट में भी जैसे पोटैटो, टोमेटो, रोनाल्डो, तो वो सब कौन लेके आया? पोर्टुगीज लेके आए। तो समझ जाना इससे कौन कौन से वेजिटेबल्स ले आए। गॉट इट? राइट दिस वेराइटीज ऑफ fruits and vegetables were also introduced. ठीक है, this is a basic idea. Basically, after discussing this topic, Portuguese, Dutch, English, French, we will develop a basic idea. Okay, and then I will discuss facts on the maps that which are important settlements. तो थोड़ा सा टाइम लगेगा. I will also discuss facts separately on the map. ठीक है. तो रिसेंटली वी आर ट्राइंग टू बिल्ड अप कॉन्सेप्ट्स. तो मैं इस क्लास में बहुत ज़्यादा फैक्ट्स को नहीं इंक्लूड कर रहा हूँ. वी विल डिस्कस द फैक्ट्स सेपरेटली, क्योंकि जब वैसा करेंगे, ज़बरदस्ती का फैक्ट्स उसमें डालेंगे, तो फिर कॉन्सेप्ट बिल्डिंग में थोड़ी सी प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगी, एंड दैट इज़ नॉट गुड. So the facts which are required to understand the concepts, we are trying to grasp all those facts, and some independent facts I will discuss separately. Is it clear? Okay. कोई doubt, कोई question? In world history also we will read a lot of things. Then you will start correlating world history with modern Indian history. तो वो correlation तब आएगा. ठीक है, मल्टीडिसिप्लिनरी अप्रोच तब आएगा. और आपको एक सबसे बड़ी चीज़ की डिस्कशंस का क्या इम्पैक्ट होता है वो आप रियलाइज करोगे कि व्हेन यू डिस्कस समथिंग, यू स्टार्ट ग्रास्पिंग द आइडियाज, यू स्टार्ट कनेक्टिंग द थीम्स. एंड व्हेन यू डू रोट लर्निंग, कि कहीं से नोट्स उठाया और पढ़े जा रहे हो, पेज पे पेज पढ़े जा रहे हो, पढ़ तो लोगे, समझ में भी आएगा, बट इट विल बी वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू राइट इन 150 और 200 वर्ड्स. दैट इज द मोस्ट चैलेंजिंग एस्पेक्ट ऑफ आवर मेंस एग्जामिनेशन. ओके, हमें इससे नहीं लिखना है. वी डोंट हैव टू राइट आंसर इन 600 वर्ड्स. वी हैव टू राइट आंसर इधर इन 150, 200 और 250 वर्ड. एंड फॉर दैट a very good understanding of the theme is very much important. Then you will be able to write the points. रट्टा मारोगे, पॉइंट भूल जाओगे. इफ यू विल रिमेंबर बुलेट फॉर्म पॉइंट, 6 पॉइंट्स, एग्जाम में जाओगे फिर रिकॉल करोगे, अरे यार 2 ही याद आ रहा है, बाकी तो नहीं याद आ रहा है. ये होता है. ठीक है, क्योंकि होता क्या है, जब हमारे पास क्रिप्स नोट्स होते हैं ना, प्रिंटेड नोट्स, तो वो बेसिकली कॉपी पेस्ट मटेरियल होता है, कहीं से कोई पॉइंट उठा के दे दिया गया. एंड दिस इज द रीजन दैट वी लर्न एंड फॉरगेट. सो द बेस्ट वे टू रीड इज व्हाट? डिस्कस द होलिस्टिक आइडिया. उस सबको पढ़ो, एंड दिस इज वन टाइम इन्वेस्टमेंट. एक बार सही ढंग से आपने कॉन्सेप्ट्स को समझ लिए, तो रीडिंग फैक्ट्स विल बिकम मोर इजियर फॉर यू. You will start retaining the facts also more effectively once you understand the concept. Until unless you don't understand the concept, so you will find that you are remembering the facts and you are forgetting the facts quite often. It is very difficult to retain the facts. So what is the root cause of that problem? That we don't build our concepts. That is the root cause. तो वहाँ काम करना है. ये ज़रूरी थोड़ी ना कि एक रेस लगी हुई है कि 21 ईयर्स में सेलेक्ट हो जाना है. भाई 22 में हो जाना, कौन सी बड़ी बात है. फंडामेंटल्स को इतना परफेक्ट कर लो. ये देखो, एक एक अटेम्प्ट वाला तो है नहीं कि देर इज ओनली वन अटेम्प्ट. सपोज अ स्टूडेंट हैज नॉट मेड good command over the fundamentals, he clears prelims, fails mains exam, and since he has not maintained a good command on fundamentals, so from next year he will be trapped in the exam cycle and he will never get the time to develop command over the fundamentals. और फिर तब क्या होता है, वो चक्र शुरू होता है, एक अटेम्प्ट, दूसरा अटेम्प्ट, तीसरा अटेम्प्ट, चौथा अटेम्प्ट, और एग्जाम नहीं होता है. सो बेटर स्टे, develop full command on fundamentals, and then enter the exam cycle. And when you enter the exam cycle, your complete focus should be on preparing current events related to different modules. उस समय पूरा फोकस वहां होगा. So that is the best idea that I suggest in every class. Okay, so आज के लिए इतना ही, and the remaining the next topic will start in the next class. Have any questions? No? Okay. Thanks to all of you. Huh. Yes, please, please. Please ask your question. Who? Mm-hmm. You are talking about Saint Thomas, researches on ancient culture, history. इस पे बात कर रहे हो क्या? कि they also contributed. What you want to ask? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. मैं समझ गया। एक्चुअली देखो, मैं बता रहा हूँ, ऐसा नहीं कि कनेक्शंस नहीं थे इंटरनेशनल ट्रेड के साथ, सी रूट भी था। बट आप देखोगे तो रेड सी वाला एरिया है, पर्सियन गल्फ है, ठीक है, जहाँ पे आप लैंड रूट, सी रूट इसका यूज करके यूरोप पहुंच सकते हो। मेरी बात समझ गए ना? एग्जैक्टली ये जो रूट था केप ऑफ गुड होप वाला, कॉमर्शियली ये डिस्कवर नहीं था। मेरी बात समझ गया ना? कि बिग शिप्स विल कम फॉलो दिस रूट, उसके लिए बहुत सारी चीज़ें ज़रूरी है। ओके, यू मस्ट हैव द नॉलेज ऑफ मानसून्स, जो एंसेंट इंडिया में मैंने बताया, हिपालस मानसून, ठीक है, फिर एस्ट्रोलॉब्स आती, मैग्नेटिक कॉम्पास आता, तो वो सेफर होगा सी वॉयजेस। तो ये पूरा इसका मतलब ये है। गॉट इट? ओके, तो डिस्कवरी ऑफ न्यू सी रूट्स का मतलब ये है। गॉट आकाश? अच्छा, अनदर स्टूडेंट, यस, लक्ष्य, आस्क योर क्वेश्चन। देखो, मैं इस पे कुछ नहीं बोलूंगा, ठीक है? अभी बोलूंगा तो कहोगे कि ज़्यादा बोल रहे हो। कुछ क्लासेस करो, फिर आपको आंसर मिल जाएगा, ठीक है? मेरी क्लास का मतलब ये होता है कि यू हैव टू रीड नथिंग। हाँ, क्वेश्चन बैंक प्रैक्टिस करो पीवाईक्यू के लिए, दैट इज गुड। ओके, एंड हियर इफ आई एम टीचिंग इंडिविजुअली, ठीक है, तो मैं कुछ छोड़ूंगा नहीं। आई विल टीच ईच एंड एवरीथिंग इन डिटेल, ठीक है? कोई बुक क्लास को रिप्लेस नहीं कर पाएगी, कोई प्रिंटेड मटेरियल क्लास को रिप्लेस नहीं कर पाएगा, एंड दिस यू विल रियलाइज, ओके, आफ्टर फ्यू क्लासेस आप समझने लगोगे। और एक और बात, सम स्टूडेंट्स माइट थिंक कि सब पढ़ा दे रहा है तो ऑप्शनल में क्या पढ़ाएगा। भाई, ये जीएस है, ऑप्शनल में कुछ और पढ़ाया जाता है। ये अलग बात है कि बहुत सारे लोग ऑप्शनल में भी जीएस पढ़ाते हैं, तो प्रॉब्लम मेरे जैसे लोगों को आ जाती है। लोग कहेंगे यार इतना डिटेल पढ़ा दोगे तो ऑप्शनल में पढ़ाओगे क्या? ठीक है, ऑप्शनल अलग है, ठीक है, इट्स completely different. Okay, so those students who will get optional class, and since I will release all these classes for free, and if they already have studied GS history, and then and when they join optional, in that case no one can stop them in getting minimum 300 marks. मेरी जीएस क्लास कंप्लीट करने के बाद जो बच्चा ऑप्शनल में बैठा है, तो 300 प्लस मार्क्स आर गारंटीड। लेकिन जीएस कहीं और से पढ़ के आया हो तो आई विल नॉट टेक गारंटी, लेकिन क्योंकि मेरे लिए ऑप्शनल का मतलब जीएस नहीं है, ऑप्शनल मीन्स ऑप्शनल, ठीक है ना? तो ये ध्यान रखना है कि मैं ऑप्शनल नहीं पढ़ा रहा हूँ। जीएस ज़्यादा डिफिकल्ट है ऑप्शनल से, इसमें प्रीलिम्स है, ऑब्जेक्टिव करना है आपको, एमसीक्यू करना है, बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं, तो ऑब्वियसली इट टेक्स अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम। ऐसा नहीं है कि जीएस का सिलेबस छोटा है, सिलेबस ज़्यादा बड़ा है इन कंपैरिजन टू ऑप्शन। ऑप्शन में लिमिटेड थीम्स हैं, लिमिटेड टॉपिक्स हैं। गॉट इट? चलिए बाकी मिलते हैं फिर कल की क्लास में। थैंक्स टू ऑल ऑफ यू।